Well, we have that little animation because at 11:12 p.m. tonight, the leader of the world's largest arsenal and best fighting force was in the White House using his phone and did so again at 11:18. A dramatic reading follows. As the shutdown was going on, Nancy Pelosi asked me to give the State of the Union address. I agreed. She then changed her mind because of the shutdown, suggesting a later date. This is her prerogative. I will do the address when the shutdown is over. I am not looking for an alternative venue for the State of the Union address because there is no venue that can compete with the history, tradition, and importance of the House chamber. I look forward to giving a great, in quotes, State of the Union address in the near future. Donald J. Trump from the White House tonight. Now to the business of the process of this shutdown, forgive the phrase. The Washington Post reports tonight the White House is asking around to agency leaders for a list of programs that will be jeopardized if the shutdown continues into, say, March and April. The Post points out, quote, it's the firmest evidence to date that the White House is preparing for a lengthy funding lapse. Tomorrow, the U.S. Senate, your U.S. Senate, is expected to vote on two competing bills to reopen the government. Here's the problem. One of them is Trump's plan he announced on Saturday that would include the wall. The other is a short-term bill to get the government up and funded, get people paid through February 8th. Both bills are expected to fail. Some House Democrats say they're working on a deal that would offer more technology spending at the border. NBC News reports this counteroffer would, quote, meet or exceed $5.7 billion for border security, asterisk, but no money for a physical wall. Democrats still hold the position that the government should first be reopened immediately before negotiations take place over border security. At the same time, the counteroffer signals some movement on Capitol Hill. Meanwhile, as the shutdown drags on, we got this stern message from the vice president of the National Air Traffic Controllers Association today.
We cannot be in this any longer. It is already less safe than it was a month ago when we shut down. We have critical components to safety that are not there. We have processes not there, training not taking place, distraction in the workplace. We have controllers actually reporting to us that they're making mistakes when they are giving clearances, clearing planes in places where they shouldn't be clearing them, in conflicts with other airplanes because they're so stressed out about how they are going to take care of their family. Their livelihood is threatened at this point.
Some outlets where they had personnel shortages. Before the shutdown, some controllers were working 6 days a week, 10-hour-a-day shifts. And tonight, unions for air traffic controllers, pilots, and flight attendants, after all, released a statement saying there is growing concern for safety in their industry due to the government shutdown. It reads in part, quote, if in our risk-averse industry we cannot even calculate the level of risk currently at play, nor predict the point at which the entire system will break, it is unprecedented. With us to talk about all of it, Jeremy Peters, political reporter for the New York Times, and Anita Kumar, now White House correspondent and associate editor for Politico. Anita, it boggles the mind that we are about to, with straight faces, have a conversation about, God forbid, a disaster or loss of life required as a triggering mechanism to get both sides to reopen our federal government after a month.
I actually have been hearing that for the last few days, that even people close to the White House are saying that they will not budge, that the Democrats won't budge, and until there's an accident or some kind of security, safety issue, both sides aren't going to come to the table. But I think you hinted here that there is going to be some movement. This House proposal that they're talking about, I think that's probably going to go somewhere. I mean, clearly the Senate bills that are coming up are not going to go somewhere. I think the House saying that they would look at spending some money, not necessarily on a wall, but on enforcement issues, is going to get some attention.
Jeremy, same question to you. And what just happened to the balance of power, at least within the Beltway? In the past few minutes, the president has agreed something we've never had, to a State of the Union that will await a reopened government.
Right. I think, Brian, the ultimate impact of the president's tweet just now saying he'll wait to give his State of the Union is pretty minimal. I mean, it just kind of adds the latest twist in this ongoing squabbling back and forth. Give your speech, Mr. President. No, wait, you can't give your speech. Well, now you can't go on your trip. I'm going to give the speech anyway. No, you're not. I guess now we're at, okay, I won't give the speech. So I guess we'll wait to see whatever happens tomorrow, which, at this point really could be anything, although I have been hearing slightly more optimism that at least with the Senate votes, though those are doomed to fail, it appears that that could provide some type of forward-moving momentum here to get the gears of government at least somewhat grinding again.
Anita, Jeremy just used the O word for optimism. Are you hearing any of that being shared, especially the subset of that question is Republican defections? Who's had enough?
Yeah, it's been going on for quite some time, right? So you'd think that both sides would have enough. I mean, every paycheck, I think, that goes by that people aren't getting and messages like you heard before about safety, I think that it's going to get there. But both sides are just really dug in on this. I mean, you mentioned the State of the Union thing back and forth. I mean, this just shows you that they are not looking to compromise. They both have their way and they want their way. So, I just go back to this House proposal that's out there. To me, that's the sort of only glimmer of hope. I don't know that I would say optimism, though, because the president has been adamant that he still wants this wall. It's something he campaigned on, he talked about, and that he thinks that it's necessary and that he wants to get the money for it, that this is the time for him to try to do that.
Jeremy, I have three visuals and then a question. Visual number one is a letter by all the former secretaries of Homeland Security. As cabinet agencies go, it hasn't been around that long, but they all signed on to this letter saying, in effect, end this. It also includes the former Homeland Security Secretary, General Kelly, who is the most recent White House chief of staff. Visual number two is some polling information, and it shows the president deeply underwater when people were asked the question by CBS News pollsters, is this border wall worth the government shutdown? 71% say it is not worth it. Now add to that the following visual. This is all the aircraft over the United States right now. See some of those routes that really pop, like DFW up to New York, the European flights leaving this time of night to begin their long arcing flight over the North Atlantic, and all the Pacific activity as well. That's what the skies over this country look like. And here's a prediction. They will all land safely tonight because of the true professionals, the public servants working without pay in all the TRACON stations, all the local towers at all the airports in this country. But for how long, Jeremy? And our first question comes back, God forbid, is this going to take a tragedy?
I sure hope not. But I think what this speaks to more than anything else, Brian, is the degradation of our political culture and the willingness that political leaders have to really subject government workers to this prolonged period without pay, but also to show blatant disrespect for the government, for the functions of our government that our Constitution has set up. And it's really a change from this when these things were rare, right? Or when politicians had more of a capacity for shame, when the Republican Party dared not shut down the government for 20 years after the 1995 and 1996 shutdowns because they thought it was not only bad politics, but bad governance. That kind of shame doesn't exist anymore in today's Republican Party, because what you've had over the last 10 years or so is a party that is more and more hostile to government. They think that government doesn't do much good for them. When, of course, there's plenty of evidence and money in their Social Security accounts and money paying for their Medicare to prove otherwise. But I just don't see a Republican Party that exists anymore where shutdowns are perceived as bad politics, even though the overwhelming majority of Americans don't like them.
Wish the topic was more cheery, but I thank you nonetheless, both of you, for coming on and adding your reporting to this segment. To Jeremy Peters, to Anita Kumar, two of our returning veterans. Our thanks. Coming up. Those protesters outside Mitch McConnell's office want to get back to work. They would like to get paid for their work as well. There's been little public talk of an actual shutdown solution. The House passed its 10th bill today to reopen the government, but it doesn't include wall money and thus won't go anywhere. Over in the Senate, Leader McConnell blocked a similar bill in the Senate. Now, there are these bills that are both expected to fail tomorrow, nothing like managing expectations. And the longer the shutdown drags on, the lower the president's approval rating sinks. This may get his attention. This new AP-NORC poll shows his support dropped 8 points since the shutdown started in December. His disapproval ratings are now back to what they were after there were good people on both sides in Charlottesville. Here with us tonight, apparently no one available in 49 other states. We have two Marylanders, and it's a good thing we like them. Donna Edwards, former Democratic member of Congress representing the state of, did I mention Maryland, and newly minted Washington Post columnist. And Michael Steele, former chairman of the Republican National Committee and former lieutenant governor from the state of, wait for it, Maryland.
There it is.
Thank you both for being with us.
Sure.
Michael, the whole rap on Mitch McConnell is his ability to count noses. Any good leader, any good whip in the House or Senate, that's what they do. They're like a Western rancher counting a head of cattle. But there's no way to get to 60, apparently, on either vote without doing how a bill becomes law, which none of us paid attention to when we were in school. Why bring them up?
Well, they're bringing him up because they're probably trying to position for the back end of this conversation, which is going to be around something that's beginning to form in the House. I don't think this bill that's going to rather open the government is going to emerge out of the Senate. It's going to emerge out of the House. And it's going to have, I still believe, at the end of the day, Brian, is going to have elements that make it look like a wall, make it sound like a wall, but it's not going to be a wall. Trump will be able to go and say, I got money for the wall. However, that's going to be framed and architectured for him to be able to do that. That's what the next phase is after these votes, because Friday is a day of reckoning, as already been discussed, where a lot of folks for the second pay period now will go without a check. And if it wasn't real before, it's going to get very real for Mitch McConnell and a whole lot of members in the Senate. And so I think they show motion with these bills that they're going to be voting on tomorrow, and then the heavy discussion begins.
Donna, you, of course, served with Nancy Pelosi in the House, and you, of course, have a ton of federal workers in your former congressional district. How do you think the Speaker of the House will know when it's time? This can't be entirely one-sided, after all.
Well, no, and I mean, the way I feel is that the Speaker probably has a real sense of where her caucus is and where the points of negotiation are. And I think that the move by the Senate to dispose of these two bills, neither of which will get 60 votes needed to move them on, begins to open the door and create a pathway by which there can be a resolution. The point is, the resolution can't happen with building a wall, and we all know that. I think that Democrats have always said that they can see a way to doing fortified reinforcements of what already exists, of making sure that there is increased border security and technology and increasing immigration judges and all of those things that actually contribute to security. And I don't think any of that has changed. And what needs to change is the president. And I think in some ways that can happen because he will see the failure of these two bills coming up in the United States Senate.
Michael, this is not billiards, nor is it Terrapin football, but at the risk of having something thrown at the television inside the White House, was this advantage Pelosi today? Did she just win around?
Oh, yeah, she punked him good, yeah. No.
Oh, boy, you just got something thrown at the TV.
Yeah, sorry, but yeah, she called his bluff. He thought he was calling hers, but she called his. And the president tonight recognized that probably the only place he could hold a speech is some alley in D.C. So, I'll just wait until after the shutdown. Nancy Pelosi, I think to the Congresswoman's point, she knows her caucus. She knows where she can go, how far out she can go. And there is no reason for her to move, Brian. There just isn't. The president, at the very beginning of this thing back in December, once he rejected the Senate bill that he sent the vice president up to say, yes, I'm behind it and I'll go for it, said to Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, I take full responsibility for this. I own this and I won't blame you. And Nancy's like, okay, and here we are.
Yeah, he said, use the word mantle. Give me the mantle of this shutdown.
Give me the mantle. That's right.
Wonder how that mantle feels right about now. Hey, Don, I got one for you. This is from our friend Peter Baker over at the New York Times. Democrats accuse Mr. Trump of hostage-taking tactics, but among the hostages has been his own presidency. Other than his single-minded pursuit of a border wall, Mr. Trump has all but put on hold advancing the rest of his agenda. It has become, as one administration official put it, a one-issue White House. Though, Donna, you and I both know this speech, if history is any guide, and who knows at this point, will contain words like infrastructure. Remember that word?
Yeah, I remember it. I don't think the president does. I mean, here's the thing. The president backed himself into a wall. He was always going to lose this fight. And now the question is just how does he lose, or how do Republicans allow him to save face to move on? The fact is he wanted to do a State of the Union message, but you can't stand in front of the entire United States and proclaim to Americans that the State of the Union is good when the government is shut down and when it's not functioning. And he is the head of that dysfunction. So I think that right now the most that the president can count on is that he's worked himself into full on into an election cycle now. And I just don't know where this administration goes up from here.
I want to go where angels dare, and that is to talk about 2020 for just a moment.
Hi, everyone. My name's Mike. I'm the creator of Mox News. And for the last 15 years, I have been telling you that as long as I have the support of the community that I serve, Mox News will post videos forever. And that's the truth. As long as I have your support, no one could ever make me stop. Unfortunately, currently, less than 1/2 of 1/10 of 1% of Mox News viewers ever donate, tip, or contribute anything back. Again, let me make that really clear. Much less than 1/2 of 1/10 of 1% ever give anything back. And to those of you who have donated to Mox News, I want to thank you so much, because it's because of your generosity that we have been able to bring attention to important videos that millions and millions of eyes would have never seen. And I think that that's an amazing thing that we've been able to make happen together. And I can't thank you enough for helping me make that happen. So it's not too late. If you'd like to see Mox News covering the 2020 presidential election, if you can't imagine the 2020 presidential election without Mox News, please, there's still time. You can make a difference. It's easy to make a contribution, donation, or tip. You can go to moxnews.com, or in the text body of this video, there are clickable links to the Patreon page or to the PayPal page. And again, it should take less than 2 minutes to make a donation, and your donation can make a big difference. So I thank you all. Stay cool. One of these days this war is going to end, and it would be awesome if Mox News could be there to celebrate that day with you.